All right. So, you know, our rectangular prisms and cubes, right? You're really just multiplying those 3 dimensions together. You're just building from your area and adding that 3rd dimension there. So for part D here, okay, we see our final measure that has formulas associated with it. And so surface area. So if this is our box, which of the following drawings, 1, 2, or 3, represents the entire surface area of the box? 2. But hopefully everyone remembers. So yeah, when we look at our 3-dimensional shape, the other measurement that we're doing is surface area. So So basically, what we're doing is we're calculating the area of all of the 6 sides of the box and adding them together, and that gives us our measure of surface area. So sorry, surface area is going to be a 2-dimensional. It's going to be a 2-dimensional measure like regular area, but hopefully you guys see the difference between area and surface area. Surface area applies to 3-dimensional shapes. And once again, we're basically calculating the area of all of what we call the faces or the sides. So hopefully everyone kind of remembers. Bottom. Right. But anyway, so you're always making sure, and so with surface area, we want to try to imagine our 3D shape smushed flat, so that all of the surfaces are basically flat. Yeah. All right, so then what is the surface area of the box? Did anyone calculate that? If our box is 5 times 8 times 2. So that's our box dimension. So to calculate the surface area, we take 2 times like the combinations we can do here, So we do 2 times 5 times 2 plus 2 times 8. All right, so does everyone see how, if we kind of,
yes.
Good. So we have our 3 dimensions, width, height, and length. And then, we basically kind of put them in our 2 combinations. And then you could plug this whole thing into your calculator if you wanted, but let's see, you get 20 plus 32 is 52 plus 80, 52 plus 80 is 132. Does that sound good? Did anyone actually solve that problem? I can probably check with the calculator because 20 plus 32. Okay. So the surface area of the box is 132 square inches. Okay. And then of course the volume of the box, 80 cubic inches. 5 times 2 times 8. Okay. How's everyone feeling about our kind of our 4 major geometric measures and how to apply formulas, to calculate those measures? Okay, definitely stop me though if you have questions or if anything feels funky or, I'm messing up. All right, well, excellent. So the remaining, let's see what do we got. We've got 6 more problems. Excuse me. All right, well, we'll just start at the start. Okay, so number 13, right? We're looking at our drawing over here. And we've got a floor plan of a porch. And it tells us, right, that the length of the porch is 3 times the width. But we know that the width is 7 feet. That'd probably be a really narrow porch. Okay. So hopefully everyone feels comfortable when you kind of hear that language, right? We get that relationship again, right? Right, the width, the length being 3 times the width. Okay. So what's the perimeter of the porch then? How would we start to figure that out? Okay. How did you get 56, Jose?
7, I'm saying is 3 times, or the length is 3 times 21.
Good.
And then you just add up together.
Yeah, good. 21 plus 21 plus 7 plus 7. And you said 56, is that right?
Yeah.
I would say definitely this is something you'll probably see. So this is that idea of, right, kind of combining algebra and geometry together. What's up, Shin? No, it can wait. Cool. So then now that we know the perimeter and we know our missing dimension, what's the area of our porch? 47, good. Yeah, 21 times 7. What did you say?
147.
Oh, 147. I only heard the 47. To do that again. But it's just my ears. Good. So remember, right? Area is in square feet. Okay. If a carpenter builds a top railing for 1 length and both width, what would the railing, how long will the railing be? Did anyone get that answer?
Yeah.
Good. What are we measuring? Right, but are we doing area, perimeter, volume, perimeter? Good. 35? Good. 7 plus 7 plus 21. Yep. Because, right, the railing is only going to go, of course, on the outer 3 edges of the porch. Good. And so, like I said, if you see questions about railing, fences, edging, perimeter. Okay, and then finally, if a can of stain covers 50 square feet, how many cans of stain are required to cover the porch? Okay, how'd you get 3 cans? Good, so yeah, once you know the area of the entire surface, then you have to think about, and remember, it's not going to be exact, right? But you can't probably buy like what 2 and 2.9, cans of paint generally. So good, yeah. So a couple ways to do this. So you could, yeah, basically, right, just divide 147 by 50, and you would get a number lower than 3, but it would be like 2 point something, right? So you'd have to basically round it up, because once again, and we're going to see this in our lesson today, when they give you this kind of unit, okay, usually can't have parts, right? So 140. Pardon? Oh, thank you. Yeah. With my, oh. Yeah, 147 divided by 50. So we would need exactly that much paint, but like I said, we cannot buy that exact amount of paint. So we have to get 3 cans to make sure we cover. All right, let's go ahead and look at number 12. So it tells us that we have this illustration, basically a lot that the house is sitting on, and the house is right here, and the driveway is right there. So what's the area of the yard? Right, so we basically have to take the area of the whole yard minus the area of the house minus the area of the driveway. Does that sound like a good plan? So we know that the total area, right, is 120 by 80, so that's 960, right? Okay, and then right, we just need to subtract off, so the house takes up 700 of the total area, and then the driveway takes up 300. Or no. That word. What did I do wrong? Oh. Zeros, don't mind me. Okay, now I feel better, guys. Did you hope? Because if you're better at this than me, then that's amazing. So then 9,600 minus 1,000. So the yard area should be 8,600 square. Did anyone work on that problem? Get to that problem? Probably not. Yeah. Good. Okay. Where do you feel like you got a little stuck? Oh, okay, yeah, and that probably. So yeah, I guess, so when you recognize that you don't have if you don't have the cookie cutter and you have, more of that total with chunks missing, then it's probably way easier. But I can see, that's not an awful strategy, but so it's if it's the whole and there's chunks cut out of it, then just figure out the total and then just subtract off the chunks that you need. But definitely could happen. So then part B, and like I said, this is very GED-ish, right? To where we have to make one calculation, but the question, right, then needs us to use that additionally. All right, if a bag of grass seed is enough to cover 1,000 square feet, how many bags are needed to seed the yard? 9. Good. And so once again, just like we can't have partial cans of stain, we cannot have partial bags of grass seed. And so we'll need 9. We'll have a little left over, but probably always a good thing. Good. So number 15, probably not a super, well, might be. Anyway, we'll be quiet. Number 15, let's see. The figure shows a patio with a curved corner. The curved section represents a part of a circle. Okay, hopefully you guys see that, right? So, and then based on that, which of the following expresses the area of the patio? Number 2? How are you getting number 2, Leonard?
Formula for the quarter piece of the.
Good. Good. So this chunk, right, of our expression is referring, hopefully you guys kind of recognize that this is, right, 1/4 of a circle. Okay. And so, right, once we calculate the area of the total circle, we only need 1/4 of that area. And then, right, we have our 3 squares as well, right, which is represented by our 3r squared. And here, right, r is also the side of the square, right? So the other part of our expression, right, 3 squares, right? And we know that the area of a square, we square the side. So if the radius is the same as the side of the square, then these are our 3 squares. Very nicely. Okay. So you might see a problem like this. We did a warm up a little bit ago, kind of about that. All right, how about number 16? Pretty easy. What's the volume of the slab? Good. All right, we just multiply our 3 dimensions together. Good. All right. So we have a figure here. A small wading pool is shown. Use 3.14 for pi. What's the volume in cubic feet of the pool? So we need, right, we have, what's our shape? And we're measuring volume. So our formula, right? Pi times the radius squared times the height. So it tells us to use 3.14 for pi. What's the radius? 2. And like we've been talking a lot about, if they give you the d, the diameter, just cut it in half. That gives you your r or your radius. So we're going to square it anyway, right? So and then times the height. So not too challenging there. So the volume of the pool should be 12.56 cubic feet. And luckily we don't have to worry about grading problems anymore, since it's a computer test. So. All right, last one. You guys are doing well. I think we've done a really good job with this topic, and you guys are doing nice. All right, a kitchen, a rectangular kitchen is 17 by 13 feet. The dining room is in the shape of a square with a side measure of 14 feet. How many square feet larger is the kitchen than the dining room? Did anyone get this one? And so what would we need to do to answer our question here? Well, it says how many square feet. So what would that be? Area. Yep. So the area of the kitchen, 17 by 13, so 221 square feet. And then what's the area of the square dining room? Good, 14 times 14. And so not too much bigger. And then, right, we would just subtract, right? Because how many, something larger, then, right, we have to subtract the larger from the smaller to get that difference, so. Difference is 25 square feet. So definitely, and we're gonna see this again, excuse me. Sorry, brain. I have no idea what I was gonna say, guys. I'm so sorry, I'm so spacey. I'm really trying to get through the speak and then maybe I can put my brain off. Recharge. Okay, any lingering thoughts or questions or concerns or problems? You like at least the feedback that I'm getting, and I'd of course love more, but it feels like everyone is doing okay. Like I said, hopefully at least you could begin and at least answer these questions and kind of work through this. At least hopefully you have an understanding of those 4, right, major measures, right, and how there's formulas, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'll stop. Let's take a break. Of a cube, the volume of a cube. So you could, right, you basically just cubing, right, the side. For which one?
Or, I'll talk about.
Number 9.
This time.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, they don't give you, right? They don't give you this formula on the GED formula sheet, but we know that a cube, right, is a special kind of a rectangular prism. So because the sides are all equal, right, you're just doing 15 cubed.
Awesome.
Mhm.
15 cube. That's how you're gonna get the volume?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, just like, right, if you have a square and you're calculating the area, you square the sides. So you're just adding that additional dimension there. So, yeah, no, that's a good question. And I assume that's why they left it off the GED formula sheet. Probably just to, you know, that's for volume, yeah.
What area?
For surface area. So then remember, basically, you calculate the area of one side, right? So you take the side squared and then multiply that by 6 because you have 6 faces, right? So 6 times the side squared would give you the surface area of a cube. And you're basically doing the same thing that we did, you know, here, but because all the sides are equal, you don't have, you can kind of cut out some of the noise and simplify it a little. But you're still just, right, basically combining the 3 dimensions and then calculating their area, you know there's 2, and then adding. All right. Anything else? Excellent questions. All right, let's take a 10-minute break. So it's about 3 after, so we'll go till about 2:13. I'll let you guys take a break. I just put together kind of pretty low-key lesson for the second half of class here. So I will put that in the chat. You try to log into your GED.com account to see if they, okay, just whenever you get a chance, that way we'll know for sure that it. I'm pretty sure they. Okay. Oh, I was looking at the wrong. Okay, only a minute. Hopefully everyone's finding their way back from break. And so I know that this is our last class of this session, okay, not last forever. Okay, want to see you guys back. So I just thought it might be helpful and interesting to kind of just go through. I really like, this is some introductory chapters of one of the textbooks that I have, and I just like the way that they kind of present all of the information about the test. And so I thought it just might be helpful to kind of go through that so you guys have some good expectations and kind of, know what to expect. I don't know if I told you guys this, I might have. But when I was gone to Atlanta at the beginning of the session, I went to a conference and I heard some folks from the GED testing service, and they told us that students who pass the math test first generally, right, have the highest likelihood of passing the additional 3 tests. So I'm not going to say start with math because you're guaranteed to pass, but if you feel strong in math and you feel like, as we go through and kind of talk about this and stuff, it might be a good starting point if it's kind of one of your strengths. And then, yeah, hopefully that would set you up for success on the other 3 tests. But let's just, so like I said, we'll do as much as we can today. I'm mostly just going to kind of talk through this and go through this information. Hopefully not too boring. Hopefully it's helpful and interesting to everyone. So I put the link in the chat. This is also on Canvas under current lesson if you need to find it. Okay. So pretty straightforward. We definitely already know, right, that we're basically, right, going to be tested on high school level math, but luckily we won't have to deal with calculus or pre-calculus, which is good for everyone, even the teacher, because I'm far away from those days. So, right, so they're really focusing, and I would say the biggest focus is algebra. Okay, then we see, right, our friend geometry that we've been working in, and hopefully everyone was kind of seeing, right, how much of geometry can be kind of formed into, right, algebra or applied via algebra or vice versa. And then what they call basic and applied arithmetic. Okay, so the box here, kind of breaks it all down into the 4 main areas. Go ahead and just kind of scan through these items. Is there anything that you have questions about that you don't know? So, okay, good. Yeah, and so these are a lot of what we try to hit and cover in these classes. Of course, sometimes we can't get to everything, but you can definitely use this this chart to kind of help right? And so kind of go through it. Yes, I know what this means. Yes, I feel like I'm good on that, good on rounding, so just go through it and just kind of see where you feel you're strong, where you think you might be not as strong. But anyway, so that kind of just gives us the specific, right, things that you'll be tested on. And so basically, right, you could expect to see problems, right, that are going to cover each one of these bullets. Okay. All right. So then here it just tells us, so the test is 46 questions. I believe that's accurate. Being someone who cannot take the actual test, it's hard to say. But so a 46 question test and about 115 minutes. So that's what, almost 2 hours, 3/4 of an hour, more than 3/4 hours. Or yeah, I guess just, yeah, you're right. Thank you, Brennan. I'm so sorry I'm struggling so much. So, and then, right, this 115 minutes is broken into 2 parts. So part 1, right, is just 5 questions. And so part 1 is the no calculator section. So luckily, right, we'll only have 5 questions with that. And so the first section, because it's the non-calculator section, right? It'll have you do basic calculations and submit the answers. And it looks like you need to complete part 1 before it'll let you continue to part 2. All right, so then part 2, 41 questions, and this is calculator allowed. Now, just because you're allowed a calculator, do you think you'll need it for all 41 problems? Probably not, we'll see. But we're gonna look at some strategies to hopefully say the calculator is a tool and it's one resource I have to help me on my test, but right, hopefully it's not our crutch, which you understand. And I wouldn't judge you. Especially right if we think about all those math, like, don't use a calculator. There will be a time in your life where you won't have one, right? Now we have it in our pocket. Right. Anyway. So it tells us about 45% of the test focuses on quantitative problem solving. So once again, with numbers, right? Doing various operations on numbers. And then, right, a little bit more than half the test is going to be algebraic problem solving. So that's why we spend probably the most of our time in algebra land, just because that's the majority of the test. But we want you to hopefully, right, be successful on everything. All right, so I think everyone is familiar with the fact that, right, the GED test is a computer-based test. It might be different, right? At least all of you guys, right, have already taken placement tests and potentially progress tests. So hopefully computer-based testing is something you're pretty comfortable with. And so, you know, you might see just one question per screen. There might be some split screens. And so you can, you know, navigate like you have a computer. And so taking the GED practice test, you'll use the same kind of like interface. So it also kind of helps you show what it'll look like. So, and there are, right, like we said, lots of kind of features and tools that everyone can use. So there's a highlighter. You can change the foreground and background colors if it's like too bright or too hard to focus on. Some folks like different combinations of colors. And you can adjust the text size, which is always helpful. You can use copy and paste, as well as undo and redo. We won't go into that too much. There's an on-screen calculator. You will have, right, your formula sheet. It is only on the screen, which is a little bit unfortunate. This is important, and we'll go through this a little bit more, but even though you have the option of taking the GED exam in person at a testing center or at home remotely, we highly recommend that you take the math test in person for sure. And the reason why is that you can have your calculator with you, okay? And if you're going to take the math test and you don't have this calculator, you can borrow one from me, okay? But if you choose to take the test online at home, you can only use the on-screen calculator, which is a real pain in the butt. Yeah, so you have to bring your own calculator. It has to be this specific brand of calculator, right? It must be this one. we have them, you can come borrow them. So I just want to let you guys know about that. On the test, they have a review screen. So hopefully this is something that everyone is aware of. I think it's helpful. I don't know if I use it as intentionally as I should, although I luckily am not taking these kinds of tests super recently. So, but I can see how it's helpful. I don't know. It's also sometimes hard, right, to skip questions, but it's probably a good strategy. And so that's what the review screen lets us do, right? So basically it lets you see all of your questions, right? You can see which ones you've answered, which ones you have left blank, which ones you haven't read. You can also mark them for review. So you can basically come back to it later. It'll basically say like, show me this problem again when I get through the rest of them. So once again, marking questions for review is also a helpful strategy so that you don't, right, get stuck on a tricky problem and feel like you're burning up, right, your time, which of course is another factor, right, that we have to consider. So hopefully not scaring anyone, but just helping everyone kind of see how this works. So here is, right, a screenshot of the review screen. Not, so like I said, it'll tell you, right, how many total questions you have, which ones you've answered, unanswered. It looks like they flagged this one, right, to go back to. And then it looks like down here, right, you can review the ones you haven't answered. You can review just the ones that you flagged. So like I said, it does help you kind of navigate through your questions. And so if you can become comfortable and confident using this, it might be a useful resource. You can check it anytime during the test. And, if possible, right, try to save yourself some time to go back and review, but might not always be the case. All right, and I'm sorry that this text is so much significantly smaller. I was saving paper by Frankensteining this stuff together, so. But another resource that you'll have for an in-person test that you will not get if you take it remotely, so you won't get a handheld calculator. You also won't have access to a way to take notes except on the screen, which once again is a real pain in the butt trying to take notes or do a math problem with a mouse. But if you do the in-person test, you'll be given one of these. It's an erase. Well, this is just a sample, but you'll get 3 of these and a dry erase marker. Hopefully they give you an eraser too. I'll have to check. So this is how you will, right, try to work through your problems by hand if you need to, or take notes or write things out. And so, like I said, if you don't test in person, you basically have to do all of your notes on the computer only. You can't have any paper or pencil like around you, or they won't let you do your test. So just so you know that, but like I said, if that's your only option, hopefully you can make it work. So, so there is some strategy that we can talk about using the note boards, but just want to let everyone know if you choose to test in person, right, you'll have a calculator, you'll have a note board. So it should be a good idea. All right. Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. It looks like these 2 things got swapped, so I'm sorry. So the problem at the top should be at the bottom here. So let's, so now we're going to go through the question types that the GED has. And maybe I cut that part off. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. So just a little warm-up problem here. Why don't you guys see how this problem goes? But just a simple multiple choice problem here. So for this problem, one of the things you'll need to recognize is that you need to know that on your formula sheet, we have what's called the distance formula. So that's probably going to help you on this problem. So we know that the total distance traveled is equal to the rate of speed you're traveling at times the time that you spent, okay? Did anyone figure out an answer here? So what was the total distance that Marie drove? 20 miles, right? And we don't know, right, the rate of speed that she traveled. How long did she drive for?
No.
1 hour, right? The entire trip took 2 hours, but right, we have to subtract the hour of shopping. So then how would we solve this equation for R? 20 equals R times 1. What times 1 equals 20? 20. Yeah. So this one wasn't too hard, but you had to kind of know what to do there. And so we did rate problems a while back, but good. So yeah, so another thing, you know, that's really helpful is to become familiar with the formula sheet, because just like we said, right, if it's on the formula sheet, you're kind of responsible for it for the test, and there's usually at least 1 or 2 of these distance formula. All right, so another question type, and I think we've seen this before, is a drag and drop type question. So on the computer, right, you're gonna have to basically drag, right, the numbers into the empty spaces. And so you get to choose from several options using your mouse and drag them into the correct location. Okay. And so sometimes, right, it's not only that you choose the correct options, but then, right, they also have to be organized correctly to get the points. So I guess it just means to make sure that, right, you all right, let's look at the sample problem here. So, you know, once again, when it kind of appears on the screen, you can kind of say, okay, it looks like, right, you know, I need to click the numbers and drag them into the table. So it looks like, right, I need to figure out how many number of pies for these 3 months. So a pie company baked 100 pies in July. Here that it says it's shown in the table below. In August, the company increased production by 1/10. In September, the pie company again increased production by 1/10. Determine the number of pies baked in the months of August and September. So. What, I guess. This is really funny, but I guess we're supposed to say 100 here. Right? So if we're gonna do. If we're gonna increase 100 by 110. You're thinking,
I'm not doing.
okay. Yeah, I would say. So 1/10 is like 10% of. Yeah. So if we increase by 10%, then we should have 110. Yeah, and then what would be the additional? As 1/10 of 110. 11. I don't know why I'm using it. Yeah. So when we increase 110, right, by September, we actually need to increase it to 121 because, right, 11 is 10% of 110. Does everyone see how that works? Because, right, we did 10% here to get here, but then when we do 10% here, it goes here because we now have to take 10% of our 111 instead of our 100. Okay. All right, don't worry too much about these problems. They're mostly just kind of examples. So go ahead and try this number 2 example, okay? So it tells us if 3x plus 6y equals 30 and 2x plus 5y equals 26, choose 2 number values below that are possible values for x and y. Okay, so does everyone understand what the question's asking? Well, I'll let you guys try and work on it a little bit. I think it's quiet just because everyone's thinking. Give you guys about 2 more minutes to just think about this problem. Don't worry too much if you don't know how to do it, it's okay, but. Did you use one of Wendy's methods for this one, Jose? Some of the equations, did you notice? Okay. I was trying to decide, like, it'd be really hard to do elimination. You could probably do substitution, it's still gonna be process. All right, did anyone get an answer here?
No.
Hey, Reba, no worries. So Jose, you think X equals -2 and Y equals 6, okay? How'd you get that answer? Mm-hmm. Okay, when you say subbing in, what does that mean? Good, so basically, right, this question is telling us, right, that when we set X at one of these 3 values and put it into our equation, then it should, right, make a true statement. If we've also found, right, the correct Y to go in there. So basically we're saying, how do we get this, right? What combination of our numbers here and our numbers here are we going to be able to put into this equation, right, to get our answer? So let's test Jose's choices here. So he's saying, is this true? Well, 3 times -2 is -6. 6 times 6 is 36. -6 plus 36 is 30. So that combination works for our first equation. Now we just have to see if it works for the second one as well. Oh, wait, now it's, oh, wait, X is still -2, sorry. All right, so 2 times -2 is -4. 5 times 6 is 30. So -4 plus 30 is 26. So very nice job, Jose. So, and this is one of the things we probably won't get to today, but you would see, you know, please look at the rest of this, depending on where we get. But when you have answers, you know, right, use those to help you narrow down your choices. And so there are other ways to solve this. Like I said, it probably would be less efficient than just that guessing and checking, right? So as long as you know what to do, right, I need some combination of these numbers and these numbers to fit into these 2 equations to make them true. All right, so another type of question you might see is this hotspot type question where, right, you basically have to, you know, click your answer on the number line. So the question says Sandy wants to invite friends over for dinner and order from her favorite restaurant, but she has only $45 to spend. Each dinner costs $10 and there's a $6 delivery fee for every order. The inequality 6 plus 10n is less than or equal to 45, represents the number of dinners and Sandy can purchase from the restaurant. Graph all possible numbers of dinners Sandy can purchase. So does anyone know anything about graphing inequalities? It's okay if you don't. We haven't gone over it. And of course, you can't see it very well, but. So we need to figure out what n equals. So oops, sorry, n is less than or equal to 3.9. And of course, you can't really have 3.9 friends, but when we're graphing an inequality, if it has this less than or equal to, we're gonna make it, we gotta find our number on the number line, so 3.9 is right here. And because it's less than, right, basically can get anything from here down. But don't worry too much about the problem, just kind of think about the hotspot question. So try this other hotspot question. Any thoughts on this one? So does anyone know what these bars are about? So when we put an expression or any term inside these two vertical bars, they are signaling the concept of absolute value. Has anyone heard this idea? So hopefully everyone recognized, right, based on the question and right, what you're kind of being shown here, that we are thinking about, right, this idea of positive and negative integers, right? So hopefully everyone can see our number line here, right, to the left is our negative integers. Here to the right is our positive integers. And so it tells us, right, what is the highest value for X and the lowest value for X that will once again make this statement true. Now, this statement's easier to make true because whatever answer we get here should be less than or equal to 8. Okay, so it can equal 8. Is there a value here? Sorry, so when you take the absolute value of something, you are basically stripping the sign and just saying how many units left or right does the number represent, right? So hopefully everyone agrees, right, that 2 is the highest value that X can equal. So my only question, and maybe Mary, you can help me here, if they're saying this part at the beginning, and even though it's inside absolute value, that's saying that the value of X still has to be positive, right, regardless that it's inside, right? Or not. Oh, sorry, Mary, I didn't realize you were so far away. Because if X can be a negative integer, right, we could really put, because it's really just like everything here. So I'm not sure if 1 would be the lowest positive integer that X can be, and 2 is the highest positive integer. I think I'm reading that correctly.
That looks good, Julie.
Okay. So
Yeah.
1 would be the lowest positive value of X, right?
1 would be the lowest positive integer.
Right.
Most not consider 0 positive or negative.
Right. And since it starts with this, if X is a positive, then we can't choose any negative values, right, for X.
Correct.
Based on it. Because even though these are true and make the inequality true, the highest positive values are the lowest. Thank you, Mary, for helping me.
Oh, sorry, I just got a call from my daughter who's in a
Oh,
tornado.
I'm sorry about that.
I just-
So don't worry once again about necessarily about the how of the question quite yet. Absolute value is definitely something I've seen on pretty much every test. So probably be something good to study. I know Wendy went over it at some point. I think Mary, you guys did too.
Yeah, we did absolute value, at least how to calculate just numerically absolute value in the Tuesday, Thursday class.
And so, yeah, don't worry too much about the ideas, but then of course there will also just be these straight up fill in the blank questions. If there were 24 traffic summonses issued in September, 45 in October, 24 in November, and 39 in December, what was the mode number of the summonses issued over the 3 months? Anyone remember or know what we mean when we talk about the mode of some data? It's on your GED, or no, wait. It has to do with that, but it's not average, that's the mean. Let me. So mode is pretty easy, it's just what number is repeated in the data.
Oh, I'm not sure.
So the mode is. The mode is kind of like when you have a bunch of data, if it's kind of like clustering around one specific area for some reason. So of course, the average is going to be higher than the mode, right? Because October and December are a lot higher. What would be the median?
Middle.
Right. So to capture your median, right, you order your data from largest to smallest. You guys see how I'm taking, right, these numbers. So the median, like you said, is the middle number. Since we have even, right? There's not one exact number in the middle, so then we just average those two numbers. Oopsie doodle.
You add them together. or subtract?
You're gonna average the two numbers, so you need to add them together and then divide by 2. So 31.5 is the middle number, and then of course the average. So yeah, this is median. So you get mean and median are on there, mode is not, for probably because hopefully, I mean, if you know and hopefully you remember what mode is, it's really not that hard. And of course, if there was no data that was the same, then there would be no. Sometimes you have bimodal or trimodal data, it's pretty exciting. And then of course, to get the mean, right, the overall average, you add all four up, right, and then divide by. Yeah. So, yep. Mean, median, and mode are definitely on the test. And like I said, mode is kind of the easiest if you know what it is. If you have an odd number of data points, median is really easy. Just find that very middle number. Otherwise, you have to average the two middle numbers, or are you averaging all of the numbers to get the
So when you add them all together, then you divide them by all of the numbers.
to get the mean, yeah. Mhm. So 24 plus 24 plus 39 plus 45 divided by 2 gives you, or divided by 4 gives you 30. All right, let's look at the example problem on the next. So Janelle's deciding how to arrange her files on her bookshelf. She has 5 files. How many different arrangements of files does she have to choose from? Anyone know? Anyone ever heard of this style of problem? This was one of the ones I had to learn when I was first teaching GED. But believe that this is called combination. Anyone heard of or know the math associated with this style of? Because you'll see this too, like you'll have a problem where it's like, he has 5 pairs of pants, 7 t-shirts, and 3 pairs of shoes, right? How many combinations of pants, shoes, and shirts can he? So it's, I don't know why, I know why, but I'm not good at explaining it, but basically, since you have 5 total, you just take 1 times 2. And that basically gives you all 5, all possible combinations of the 5 arrangements of the files. So there should be about 120 different ways to arrange those 5 files. Looks like you're gonna do it this way, and then this way, and then this way. So if you see any things like this where it's asking like how many possible combinations or arrangements there are, to figure out how many things you have, and then basically multiply all of the pieces out. Like I said, it's probably only going to be like 1 question, which is probably why we don't do a lot on that. There's going to be, right, drop down problems. And hopefully the chart stuff, you know, we don't spend a lot of time on that, but hopefully everyone feels good about that. So once again, you would just kind of use the drop down answers, right, to kind of test and see what's correct. And I'm sure you can see that. I'm sorry we didn't get through all of this, but I would really encourage you to continue just kind of looking at this lesson and this packet. And just kind of read the information. I think it's helpful. But I thought that this would just be kind of a good culmination of everything. So thank you guys for working with me over this quarter. Okay. There's we're on a break from class next week. And then starting the week of the 22nd, we'll have our summer one classes. And I sincerely can get the schedule and the information out to everyone today. But we'll definitely get it to you by tomorrow, by the end of the week.
So no class next week.
Right. And then the schedule will change for the summer session, but I'm, like I said, that's my next project. Bye, Isaiah, take care. Take care, Brennan, good to see you. So yeah. Anyone else on Zoom or Curtis, are you guys good? Any questions or problems before we're finished for today? You too.
Bye, Julie.
Oh my